Cimoooooooo. What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you my meta-analysis for the September 2020 format. We're about a week or two now into the brand new format, courtesy of the September 2020 ban list, and I thought it'd be a good idea to bring you guys some preliminary information as to how the meta is starting to trend as we move deeper into this format. We've got some big tournaments coming up, big within the standards of the online environment that is, and if you're looking to maybe play some competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, or if your locals are back to normal and you can actually play in real life, you're probably going to want to know how things are starting to trend, at least on a somewhat of a macro level. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. This is going to be a bit of a different meta analysis than you might be used to, because I want to go ahead and use YGO to kind of give us a glimpse into what we are looking at here. So the first thing that stands out to me here is this 71% win rate courtesy of Dragoonity, Red Eyes, Rocket, Guard Dragon. We also have down here, there's a 70% win rate of Dragoonity, Rocket, Guard Dragon. I'm assuming this is like some decks that are playing Red Eyes Dark Dragoon in their build and some that aren't. People are in debate as to whether or not you even need Red Eyes Dark Dragoon for some of these decks, because the deck is already capable of putting out a crazy, multiple negation board. So is Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and making your deck inherently more inconsistent necessary when you don't really need that extra card. Now, the thing is, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is absurdly busted, so that's why people are trying it out. But again, when you see that this is 71% and look at how many matches have been played, we're in the match category here, and this is a ranked play. Yeah, this really does say a lot in terms of what technically the best decks are and are not, and I'm really not surprised to see that that deck is up here. Now, I wanted to show you guys a couple of samples of the decks that you might be expecting to see, just so you guys can see kind of the anatomy of what these decks look like and how you can maybe prepare some counter strategies going into any particular tournament. So this first deck is, I believe, from a remote duel that Ready for Duel was hosting, and this was a 50 card list that was going around. Typically, these Dragon Link lists are not 40 cards because they want to play more cards that it actually keeps the deck consistent, but they don't want to draw their brick cards. So that way, by playing more cards and ensuring that they have more engine cards, they're minimizing their chances to see the dead cards and maximizing their chances of seeing their starters or their extenders. So as you can see here, a pretty clean cut list. Dragon Link is capable of doing some very incredible 1 and 1.5 card combos that can end on, a board of any of these crazy cards down here in the extra deck. And this variant in particular is playing the Rose Dragons. I know there's also debate within whether or not you even need to play the Rose Dragons anymore. Garden Rose Maiden is just absurd though, so that's one of the reasons for it. But some decks have opted to just not play it anymore in favor of maybe a more consistent build. But the deck itself is still incredibly powerful and is definitely going to be the front runner of the format, and I think the numbers here definitely justify it. I'll go ahead and show you guys another deck as well. This is, I believe, from a Pro Play Tour free tournament that they were hosting. So right here we can see, again, another 50 card list. This one was playing more hand traps. Looks like we're playing the Gammas here in the main deck, and Ogre and Ash. Looks like we're not playing Effect Veiler, but the main deck itself does look very similar. Some different ratios, but a lot of the same cards throughout. And again, this is going to be what you can expect of this until we maybe get a shift, or maybe some of the innovators who helped bring Dragon Link up to where it is now, that this is kind of what the Dragon Link builds are going to look like at the onset. And so we're going to see how those builds start to evolve as the format goes on. Now, the next deck that I wanted to talk about is Infernoble Knight, because this is sitting at the second most played deck in ranked right now. 3,700 games played. That is insane, almost 3,800 actually, and a 62% win rate. Again, probably one of the best decks of the format. Now that Emancipator is not nearly the deck that it was before, players can kind of explore these other combo decks like Dragon Link, like Infernoble Knight, and it's really cool to see that, Infernoble Knight is actually having its time to finally shine. I'll go ahead and show you guys another Infernoble Knight list just so you guys can get an idea of what these decks are looking like. Yeah, there were some, reconfigurations that had to occur because O-Lion is gone, but you can see right here, this list adjusted just fine. It actually looks like a very simplified version of a list. Only playing 45 cards. Some of these Infernoble Knight decks actually play 50 or 60 cards as well, but this version in particular is playing Plague Spreader Zombie. You have the Colt Wing Mecha Phantom Beast, and basically playing these almost essentially just replaces O-Lion. It's just another card that does something a little bit differently, but it's perfectly fine, and you're still able to end on boards that are just as powerful as they were before. You're just having to like jump through an extra hoop to get there. Also, if you guys are Infernoble Knight lovers, I would definitely recommend checking out Pack's official Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube channel. He's got some incredible in-depth information on the Infernoble Knight strategy. He really loves the deck. He's trying to find ways to innovate it, to pioneer it, and really just make it the best that it can possibly be. So shout outs to him. He's the Infernoble Knight god at this point. So I figured I'd go ahead and direct you to him for any of your Infernoble Knight needs. But now I'm going to move on to a deck that a lot of you guys are going to want me to talk about, and that is Dinosaur, sitting on almost 6,400 matches played with a 61% win rate. That's insane. I mean, that's almost like double this Infernoble Knight deck, and this is the second one out of all the decks on this list, and Dinosaur is just sitting at the top. And being able to sit at the top and also having a 61% win rate, that's very impressive. Now, I want to show you guys Team Samurai X1's remote duel championship deck list, and the reason for this is because, yes, this may have been from a previous format, but look at this list. The ban list did not do anything to this list, and this deck is still perfectly playable as of right now. Now, obviously, you might want to make some adjustments because the meta has shifted. However, like, the fact that a deck as powerful as Dinosaur received no hits on the most recent Forbidden and Limited list, and you could basically take this list right now and play it and most likely win and do just fine with it, that's incredible. I mean, that is just a testament to how great of a deck Dinosaur truly is, and it's really exciting to see as well. People love Dinosaur, and Dinosaur's really getting its opportunity to shine right now. I think that's really cool. I don't think Dinosaur is going anywhere anytime soon, and you can expect to, based off purely the numbers here, you can expect to see a lot of Dinosaur moving forward. But now I want to talk about something that I find hilarious. So Monarch is the third most played deck right now in the online format, and it only has a 36% win rate. Maybe people are just like psyched that Pantheism is back at 3. Yeah, no, Monarch is a super fragile and super bricky deck, and I think these numbers are reflective of that. I think people are really trying to make it work, but man, it really just is not working. It has more games played than Salamangreat, just barely, but like people love Salamangreat, so the fact that it's even above that is pretty astonishing. You have to remember that Rocket Link, which is basically these two categories like combined, so really Rocket Link is like, or Dragon Link rather, is like kind of up here, maybe even like above Infernoble when you add everything together. So really this is much higher, but still, like that is just hilarious to me. Salamangreat though and Sky Striker, they're both up here. They're pretty respectable, 52% win rate, 50% win rate. These are kind of decks that people just flock back to because they're kind of like their comfort zone, and in an unknown environment, they can kind of handle their own in really any situation, and I think they're pretty solid decks. The fact that they have good win rates and this many games played, I think justify them being up here. So Dogmatika Invoked is the next deck I wanted to discuss. This is pretty interesting. It has about 2,500 matches played with a 59% win rate, so it's really not too far behind some of these other top contenders here, and Invoked Dogmatika is looking to be the strongest variant of the like Dogmatika variant, it seems. Eldlich Dogmatika is obviously still an option as well, but at least in this initial breakout, we're seeing a very high volume of Dogmatika Invoked being played, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, the deck was still perfectly fine back in the previous format before we had the September ban list, but yeah, just keep in mind that Dogmatika Invoked will be running around and really isn't going anywhere. We have Burning Abyss, which people were super hyped about, but again, only a 39% win rate. I mean, this is kind of like following in the trend with like Monarch, but not nearly as bad. I think Burning Abyss probably has way more potential, and maybe a bunch of people who've never really played Burning Abyss are wanting to try it out and just failing miserably by doing so. But this deck is definitely underrated, so while the numbers here don't lie, I definitely think there's an underrepresentation of how good this deck truly is, because it's being muddled down by some of the other players in the online environment, maybe experimenting with it to try to find the right mix. Definitely keep your eye on this one though. The Altergeist is, you know, always been like a decent rogue deck. It's got a 57% win rate right now, so that's perfectly okay. Interestingly enough, Eldlich is actually down here, and it still has a good win rate at about 57%, only about 1,500 games played though, so people are really not too much on Eldlich at the moment, even though it's still a very strong deck. Yeah, it did lose the synchro capabilities from Jet Synchron and Mecha Phantom Beast Lion, so maybe people have to re-engineer the synchro version or have to delegate to something like the Dogmatika version version, or maybe something like, you know, the invoked version, or maybe just a more pure stun control version, although that's probably going to be the least likely out of the scenarios. I do have a couple deck lists of Eldlich that saw some success over the weekend, the first of which is an invoked Eldlich that was playing Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, of course. Just a pretty solid control deck. I mean, there's not really too much going on here, but this is what you could expect from any sort of invoked Eldlich variant moving forward, and this is still a pretty strong deck in and of its own right, but I think some of these combo decks are just so powerfully oppressive that it's really difficult for a deck that has this heavy of a control component to really be able to compete, although Red Eye's Dark Dragoon is one hell of a card. And then another list I had for you guys was actually a Dogmatika Eldlich list, and this is a deck that we saw a lot of in the previous format, and so again, having it see some level of success right now is really not surprising. Again, the numbers that Eldlich is putting up right now are not terrible, it just doesn't have a lot of representation, so you're still going to see a lot of Eldlich out there, but you know, just compared to decks like Dinosaur and Infernoble and Dragon Link, you're going to be running into those way more frequently, and so those are the decks it looks like as of now you're going to need to focus on, but these other more slower control decks really haven't gone anywhere, and so that's something you definitely have to keep in mind. The last thing I wanted to do to wrap up this video was actually talk about the individual cards that are being played in the format. This is a really cool tool that YGO has. It actually shows the frequency of occurrence that cards have being played in all of the ranked matches. So right here you can see Ash Blossom's the most played card right now at 33,000 times, and it's cool, it shows also the win rate percentage of how often a player wins when they resolve some of these cards. So this is a good tool for you guys to use if you're really looking to kind of figure out what some of the top trends are, because this is active. Like I could refresh it right now and it'll show where it's at. So 33557, I actually have to go back to it right here. Yeah, 33620. So just in the time of recording this video, it's gone up a reasonable amount, but this is cool. So you can see Ash Blossom, Imperm. Other hand traps include Psyframe, Gear, Gamma. You need to have Driver if you're playing Gamma. That's why that's up here. And Effect Veiler. So those are your top hand traps right there. So that's what you need to be looking out the most for. If you know a strategy that doesn't really care too much about those, you know, some of the combo decks can play through it rather well, then you're really not going to have to worry about too much. Crystron Halki Fibrax is still the third most card played currently in the format, and a 61% win rate if that card gets played. So, it's a little bit weird. It's almost like Crystron Halki Fibrax or Link Cross were the problem and not Jet Synchron or Mecha Phantom Beasto Lion. That's a very interesting, you know, take. Link Cross right here, 63% win rate. So it's funny, it looks like Halki Fibrax actually gets stopped a little bit more than Link Cross does, because if Link Cross resolves, that just ensures a 2% higher chance of winning the game. It's really cool to look at the data through this lens. We also have Red Eye's Dark Dragoon boasting a 60% win rate because the card is just obscenely broken, so there's really no surprise there. And just scrolling down a bit, you can see some of the other cards. Martial Metal Marchers for the combo decks, Pot of Extravagance is for the control decks, Link Karibo, Pot of Desires, Alistair for any of the invoked variants, whether it's invoked Eldlich, it's invoked Dogmatika, most likely the latter. Nibiru still being played at high levels of frequency, and then you have some other things as well that are kind of like combo pieces, you know, like Almirage and different things like that, Striker Dragon as well. It's funny that you see Herald of the Arclight with that 67% win rate, same with Borreload Savage Dragon down here at the bottom. Those top tier combo decks, if they end on that board, that is how high of a percentage chance they have to just win the game just by getting to that end board. Isn't that neat? So I thought I'd go ahead and change up how I did this meta analysis, since again, we don't really have a lot of deck lists to go ahead and show you guys right now because the format is still relatively premature, and I thought this would be a cool way to kind of demonstrate some of the tools that YGO has, because it's a really good way to just get a lot of information very quickly and be able to help make and evolve your deck building decisions. So guys, that's going to do it for the video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.